Okay.
All right. My name is Achilles Kozakis. I don't use my middle name. My middle name is Themistocles. Themistocles. Want me to spell it? Themistokles. And I don't use it because who is going to pronounce Achilles Kozakis in the army? No way. So I left that out. Now the reason I'm Themistocles in my baptism papers and in my marriage papers. Everywhere else is just Achilles Kozakis. And when my father came to the States in 1895, his name is Themistocles, but the agent could not pronounce Themistocles. So he says, from now on, you're Thomas. And he became Thomas Kozakis.
And what was your mother's full name?
My mother's full name was Achilles Kozakis. That's all Greek.
It's Greek to me.
Amirsuda. It's in Greek.
How do you spell her first name?
Amersa. That's short for Amirsuda.
And what was her maiden name?
Her maiden name was Kozanatos. Kotsanatos. It's spelled like it sounds.
Now, when and where were you born?
I was born in Lynn, Massachusetts. I'm first generation born, Greek ancestry.
And when were you born?
I was born October 19, 1923. That makes me 94 years old.
Now, were you born in a house by a midwife, at a hospital?
I was born in Lynn Hospital. Mm-hmm. Me and my 4 brothers and my sister. My 3 brothers, 4 brothers.
Would you walk me through the pecking order, oldest to youngest, and their names?
The oldest was Mary, my sister, and then Nicholas, my brother, and then John, my other brother, and then myself, Achilles, and then Milton, and one more, Christopher, who died when he was an infant. My mother died when I was 7 years and 8 months old. She had pneumonia, and of course those days they didn't have penicillin or anything. 2 days she was gone.
Where is your mother buried? Which cemetery?
Let's see, Pine Grove Cemetery in Lynn. It's a beautiful place.
And your father,
my 2 brothers are buried there too, in the veterans section.
How about your dad?
My dad passed away when he was visiting his hometown in Elatou, Greece.
You better spell that.
Elatou. Now that's about 40 miles north of Napastos, which is a seaport, a big city. Elatou, maybe 800 inhabitants on the side of a mountain. And he used to go hunting. And we had a dog, a beagle, Sonny. And he'd take the dog with him to Greece 2 or 3 times. They go hunt. And this time he had a stroke, and the next day he died.
Is he buried there?
He's buried there, right behind the church.
Now that's a beagle. Beagles are usually rabbit hunters.
Yes, sir. That's what he hunted, rabbits. Terrific dog.
You eat a lot of rabbits when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah. I went hunting with my dad for a couple of years, but he wouldn't let me shoot for 2 years. And my 3rd year, he says, okay, Achilles, go ahead. And I was a damn good shot.
You remember what type gun you had?
Yeah, it was a Remington 16 gauge.
Mm-hmm. You ever hunt ducks and geese in that part of the country?
Oh, yeah. But I wouldn't go because it was too damn cold. I didn't like sitting around waiting for a duck. I shot a lot of clay ducks in gunnery.
That's right. That's right. Now, why did your parents, did they ever tell you why they moved from Greece to the United States?
Well, my father left when he was about 10 or 13 years old with his two brothers, Arthur and Christopher. The brothers left Greece for a better life. They couldn't speak English, and they had about $3 or $4 in their pocket. That was it. And my Uncle Christy, he almost became a millionaire in hotels. And he went back to Greece a very wealthy man. My Uncle Arthur, who was also my godfather, he was in the restaurant business in New York. And he married a German girl, and they had a beautiful daughter. And my father became a machinist. He had nothing to do with restaurants. And he was a machinist in the instrument department for a General Electric company in West Lynn. He was there for 30 years. He retired after 20, and every time something came up with it, called Mr. Tom back. And he ran the whole department. And when he took me to visit his department after I came home from overseas, the manager was telling me, Mr. Tom runs this place. I'm just a head here because of my vocabulary is greater than his. But he runs it.
And he had restaurants initially in the city of New York.
That was my Uncle Arthur.
Okay.
He had the restaurants.
You remember the name of any of those?
No, I don't.
You ever eat at any of them?
No. No.
Would you guys in Boston have anything to do with New Yorkers?
Yeah, well, we had a lot of relatives there. Later, other brothers came, and they settled in New York and New Jersey. That's where all the Kozakises were.
What part of New Jersey?
Now they're all over the States.
What part of New Jersey were they in?
What is it now? Linden and, what's the big city there?
Newark?
Newark. Yeah.
I'll be. So as 3 kids, normally when 3 kids,
Yeah.
they came by themselves.
Yes, sir.
But you needed to be sponsored back then, I think.
I don't remember. I believe they were sponsored by someone in Maryland. If I remember correctly, that was it. But I don't remember the name now.
Because they normally had to have a job or something like
Well,
that.
yeah.
in this place
Well, they
to
got a
study.
job right away. They were hustlers. They worked real hard.
Did they ever tell you what type jobs they had when they hit the streets?
No, I don't remember. Maybe they worked in restaurants and things like that, dishwashers and, what do you call it, clean up the tables and things like that.
So did your dad and his 2 brothers, did they go straight to Boston or did they land in
Oh,
Maryland?
no. They were in Maryland, in New York, and then my father went to Watertown with a Greek community, and then to Lynn with a Greater Lynn community, Greek community. They'll always go wherever they speak their language. But they all learned English. They all became citizens of the United States and became good Americans.
Now your mother, where was she from?
My mother was from the Mytilene, which is on the island of Lesbos, which is 8 miles from the Turkish coast. Clear across the country.
Will you spell that name for me, the city?
Lesbos is Lesbos, and Mytilene is Mytelena. It's a big city. It's a port.
Why did she come to the States?
Oh, I think shortly after my father.
Did she come with her family?
Of course.
Why did she ever tell you why her family moved from Greece to the States?
Well, for the same thing, for a better life. My grandfather was a carpenter, and my grandmother, and then they had 3 girls and 1 boy. My mother, my Aunt Bessie, my Aunt Christina, and my Uncle Charlie. That was their family. And they all came, spoke English, became citizens of the United States.
Did your mother, did her family move to Lynn initially?
No. First, it was Watertown, that Greek community in Watertown. Then they moved to Lynn.
Did your parents meet in Watertown?
No. I'll tell you the way my father met my mother. My mother was a teacher teaching English in a Greek community school. My father was going to that school learning English. He married the teacher.
You remember the name of the school?
No, it was just Greek elementary. No, that was our school. We went to Greek school. All Greek children went to Greek school. And it was Lynn Elementary Greek School. It was right across the street from Catholic Heart Church in Convent. It was all Irish. We grew up in a Greek-Irish neighborhood. But we had the League of Nations. My next door neighbor was Albanian. Down the street was the Bulgarians, Armenian. Across the street was the Donahues, Irish. And next to them was another Greek, and next to them was Italian. And up the street, 4 houses, was a synagogue. So we had it all. It was like one big family.
That meant you had foods you'd never see unless you traveled different parts of the world, right, in one neighborhood.
Yeah, I grew up in Lynn, West Lynn. I had the Lynn Woods and Lynn Beach. It was a perfect place for a kid to grow up in.
You remember your address?
My address is 16 Flint Street.
Front Street?
Flint, F-L-I-N-T. The house is still there.
Huh. Oh,
My father bought the house. He put steam heat in it, electricity, the whole 9 yards.
So you grew up primarily most of your life with electricity?
At first, it was gas. And then, in the late 20s, it became electricity. He had the whole house electrified. In those days, 100 amps main breaker, you know. It wasn't much power, but it was adequate.
So you had hot water then in the house?
Yeah, we had steam boilers, and we also had gas-fired heaters.
And you had a gas stove then?
And gas stove.
But did you have you didn't have a refrigerator, you probably had
The refrigerator came after the icebox.
That's it.
First we had an icebox, then the refrigerator came.
How'd you get your ice?
They had an iceman. Bill Nicolopoulos was the iceman. And we had a bread man. Andrew Andrews was a bread man. And they all had horse-drawn carts. And they deliver the ice, they deliver the bread. And our milkman, McDonough was his name, good Irishman, he delivered our milk. And that's the way it was in those days. And then you went to the store, you buy bread, meat, and things like that.
Did they have like a
No
farmer's
supermarkets.
No super. Then they must have had on Saturdays.
At A&P, Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company, and you had one other, Blood's Market, was a real nice place. Good meats and milk and eggs and things, butter and things like that. And then we went to the bakery for our bread.
And that was the Andrews for the bakery.
Yeah. And at Easter time, when you walk by the bakery, all you smell is lamb. The people bring in the lamb and they'd bake the lamb for them. Lamb and Greeks go together. You take a lemon away from a Greek and he'll starve to death. That's the old saying. We have lemon with everything.
So where did your mom get your clothes?
Our clothes, we bought them in the local clothing stores. Grains, Simon's, we bought our shoes at Simon's. They were all small stores, usually run by Jewish people.
What was the name of the first store you gave me?
McGrain's, M-A-G-R-A-I-N-S. They were on, I believe they were on either Center Street or Union Street downtown. And Simon's was across from the junior high school in West Lynn.
So, in the town itself, were there any movie theaters you used to go to?
We had 4 movie theaters. We had the Paramount, Warner Brothers, Auditorium, the Waldorf, and there was one more, I forget the name of it. That was it. And then one in West Lynn, next to the junior high school. That's where I used to go to school, to the movies on Saturdays for 10 cents.
Remember the name of it?
That was just the West Lynn Theater. And watch the cowboys and Indians.
Was that your view of the West? You know, Texas and other states was.
That was it. Cowboys and Indians. We used to play cowboys and Indians.
I'll be darned. So, which was the posh movie theater?
Which was the what?
The posh, the expensive.
Oh, those days the movie theaters were, I mean, A1. The Paramount, the Warner Brothers, the Auditorium. I mean, massive thing, beautiful.
How much more expensive were they?
No more.
A quarter?
Well, later it became a quarter.
Yeah.
It was a dime, then a quarter.
That was a quarter when I was a kid.
Yeah. Like when I was in high school.
What about drugstores? Are there any drugstores?
Oh yeah, down corner of the street of Flint Street is a drugstore.
You remember the name of it?
No, I don't, but he was Greek ran it.
Well, now the drugstores are really not only for, but that was a great place to get ice cream and sodas.
Yeah, they had a counter and chairs, and you get ice cream, soda, ice cream. Matter of fact, Manoli, my next door neighbor, Manuel George Stefanos, he had a lab, and we called it a lady. He called a lady, and all she wanted was ice cream. She'd hang around with the boys and paw on them for an ice cream. So they'd go in and buy an ice cream. Darn good dog. We also had a coffee house down the corner. And that's where all the boys gathered. The coffee house was also a Greek confectionery store. They called it Imelisa, the bee, the honeybee. And it was run by a Greek, and he made baklava, galata boudica, all the Greek sweets, and the Turkish sweets, lokoumi. And we used to hang around there, play cards, play the ping ball machine, and want coffee or anything like that. And the Greek sweets, he'd serve it.
You weren't smoking by then, were you?
I was not smoking. I didn't smoke.
Yeah.
Never smoked. Didn't smoke and didn't drink.
So most of the kids, despite their cultural backgrounds, got along.
The cultural background, like I told you, was Polish, Italian, French, Irish, but would always meet in the Greek coffee house. There was about 20 guys there in a coffee house.
Oh, man.
All that generation. I mean, I was just a kid then, and we had guys 19 and 20 years old. And they all grew up in that neighborhood.
Did you have in town, did you have some of the old department stores like Woolworths, Kresge's?
Yeah, we had both. And I used to go to Woolworths a lot.
You didn't have a trolley going through town, or?
Yeah, we first had trolley cars. Then when they took the trolley cars away and all the rails, they shipped it to Japan. We got it back in bombs.
Yeah.
And then we had the bus. And we also walked to school. If the school was more than 2 miles away, you could ride the trolley or the bus. Well, we were 1.99 miles from the high school. So we walked to school. Summer, winter, spring, you name it. We walked.
Well, that brings me right into a point. Would you walk me through your education from first grade all the way through high school, the different schools you attended, and teachers, if you remember their names?
Well, My first grade, I went into Lincoln Elementary School. And then at that time, I was an asthmatic child. I had asthma real bad. The doctor told my folks that he thought I wouldn't have much of a life. I was that bad. And I had asthma my first year, so I missed half the year, so I lost the year. Not only that, because of my age, October, I lost a year. And when I got out of first grade, I was almost 3 years old. And I had asthma all the way through.
How old did you say you were when you got out of the first grade?
First grade, I was 5 years old. And I got
That's
out of there.
awfully young.
I was 6, almost 7 years old when I got out of the first grade.
Okay, that's
I didn't
normal.
graduate till I was 19.
Okay,
Everybody's graduated 18, 17.
yeah. Yeah.
And then from there I went to Bruce Elementary, 3rd and 4th grade. And then 5th and 6th grade I went to Burrell School, up on the top of the hill. B-U-R-R-E-L, Burrell. It was right on top of the hill like you reading a book. In the wintertime, that wind would blow, and the windows would shake. Oh, man. It was an old school. But it was nice. It was real nice. Then from there, we went to Breed Junior High School, B-R-E-E-D. And that was there from the 7th to the 9th grade. And that's where I got interested in reading. My English teacher, Mr. Wells, got us interested in reading. And then 9th and 10th grade, I was in the National Honor Society. I loved school. I was a hell of a draftsman too. I took drafting from the 7th grade till I graduated. And matter of fact, when my father taught me the use of the micrometer when I was 13, that's when I got interested in being an engineer. And I became an engineer.
Where'd you go to high school?
Lincoln Classical High at the Industrial Arts Division, where they had shops, shop mathematics, physics, English literature and all that. But it was all boys. It was a mixture of Lincoln Classical and Lincoln English High School. And they went to Industrial Arts for all the shop courses. And when you graduated from Industrial Arts, you could automatically get a job at GE as a machinist if you wanted.
And that was a good paying job at the time.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that's the way it should have been that way all along. But they did away with those schools, and then all our industry moved out of the country. Yeah. Now they're going to try to get them back. But nobody knows how to run those machines. Sad situation.
You remember who your drafting teacher was?
Yeah. I believe it was Miss Garrett. And her sister, Miss Hill, Mrs., was the music teacher. And when Mrs. Hill chose me to take the lead in the 9th grade operetta, well, when she found out I didn't take music, I took drafting instead, she took my casting, she took it away. I didn't become the lead in the operetta. But that didn't bother me.
So you loved to sing then?
Yeah.
Would you sing in the bathroom?
All the brothers were noted for their singing. John, myself, and Milton in junior high school, the Kozakis boys, and their voices. John was a tenor, I was an alto, Milton was a soprano. All through junior high.
Did you have your own quartet kind of?
No, but we all sang. And sesquicentennial, when I was in the 7th grade of Lynn, they had 1,000 students singing in a new bowl. They just built a new bowl. First bowl ever built for high schools. And all concrete. And the dean of music of all the schools had 1,000 students singing. And we sang an Indian song at the sesquicentennial about the wind. It was very nice.
How about, do you remember any of your teachers and when you were in the, you named one teacher, any when you were in elementary school that kind of became your favorites or helped push you along?
Miss Adrian, my second grade teacher, I had a crush on her. And I used to stay after school and clean her blackboards for her. And one time when I was doing that, her fiancé came. They were in a cloakroom and I saw them kissing. That broke my heart. But that's the way it was.
That was your first early romance.
Yeah. She was a lovely lady, beautiful. Good teacher.
I wonder if teachers could be married and teach. Sometimes they had to remain unmarried.
We had married teachers and single.
You have any favorite teachers that you just really liked?
Yeah. I had 2 or 3. But one of them, Miss Coma, we called her Ma Coleman. She could have been my grandmother. And she was tough. I remember the first day in class in high school. She says, we were all boys. You boys, whatever you say, won't startle me. I heard it all. Before I came here, I was a teacher in a girls' reformatory, and I heard it all. But you don't fool around in her room. One time, Mecca Simirowski, he was a center in high school football, and he was horsing around in class. She walked up behind him, picked him up by the back of the neck, and she says, you don't fool around in my class, and sat him down. No more fooling around in her class. And we called her Ma Coma, and she had the book club. And there were 8 of us in the book club. We'd read books, talk about them, the author, and the stories. And when I went overseas, Ma Coma would write to me. She became my pen pal. And she also sent me a photograph of her. She's a beautiful lady. I still have that photograph. And when we came back, 6 of us took Ma Coma to dinner. 2 didn't come back. But 6 of us did. And that was the last time I saw Ma Coma.
Which 2 didn't come back? Out of the 8, I guess it would have been.
I came back when I completed my tour of the 15th Air Force in Italy.
Well, which of the 2 fellas, when you had...
I don't remember the names.
Yeah.
It's been so long.
Now, when you had these were these electrical trolleys?
Yeah.
Guys used to, I don't know about down here in Dallas, guys used to...
electrical wire up above, and we used to jump on them, steel rides, things like that. If you wanted to stop the trolley, you pull it off, stops, then you jump on, the conductor puts it back on, off we go. 12, 13 years old, 14 years old.
People used to put pennies down on the tracks too. I used to do that as a kid.
What's that?
Put pennies down on the track. Put some pennies or nickels and let it
Pennies,
fly.
and we used to put a 22 on the track, and pow, it'd fly. Crazy things like that, You shouldn't do those things, but you did. But we put pennies, nails, things like that. They'd flatten them up.
Now, you went through some Catholic school, a few Catholic schools?
No, I didn't go to the Catholic school, but my buddies did. My pals I grew up with. See, they couldn't pronounce Achilles, so they called me failure. I was failure from then till I was 22 years old. And come back to West Lynn, That's failure, not Aki. Aki came later.